A federal appeals court on May 29th allowed President Trump to continue collecting tariffs under an emergency powers law for now, as his administration appeals an order striking down the bulk of his signature set of economic policies. The Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit granted an emergency motion from the Trump administration, arguing that a halt is critical for the country's national security. The appeals court temporarily halted the order from a federal trade court issued a day before. Trump is facing several lawsuits arguing Trump's Liberation Day tariffs exceeded his authority and left the country's trade policy dependent on his whims. Another federal judge is blocking Trump's use of an emergency powers law to impose tariffs. The preliminary injunction from U.S. District Judge Rudolph Contreras comes after a lawsuit from two Illinois-based educational toy companies, Learning Resources Inc. and Handamine. They say the tariffs may force them to raise their prices by 70% as a matter of pure survival. The injunction only applies to those two companies. Contreras, who was appointed by President Barack Obama, delayed its enforcement for 2 weeks. The ruling was handed down the day after a similar, broader finding from a 3-judge panel on the U.S. Court of International Trade. At least 7 lawsuits have been filed over the tariffs. The Trump administration had said they'll go to the Supreme Court if necessary, as they appeal a ruling striking down sweeping tariffs the president imposed under an emergency powers law. The Justice Department argued that the Court of International Trade must pause its ruling now. It called this halt critical for the country's national security and the president's conduct of ongoing delicate diplomatic efforts. The Trump administration first asked the same 3 judges who ruled against him to halt their own order pending the appeal. After these judges' refusal, it planned to go to a federal appeals court and then the Supreme Court if necessary.
So obviously you just heard the news, they've stayed the order of the court, and we will go obviously to the appeals court and if necessary up the chain from there. I mean, how did this suit come about? 12 states of this union sued, and every single one of them is a blue state, from the left coast of Oregon and Washington to New York and Connecticut on the elitist coast. And the other parties to the suit were a bunch of importers who buy a bunch of cheap subsidized crap from China that really is illegally traded in the sense that it doesn't abide by the rules of the WTO. So where we stand right now is we have a dramatic expansion of a judicial blockade of the Trump agenda by rogue judiciary working in league with Democrats who are at the heart of the suit, and rhino Republicans who have a vested interest in shipping our jobs offshore and opening our borders. We will fight this all the way up the chain, and in the meantime, this did not catch us by surprise. You will hear within the next day or two, at a minimum, from the United States Trade Representative on how we will respond to all of this. We will respond forcefully, and we think we have a very good case with respect to this.
Thank you so much, Peter. And just given this appeals court temporarily reinstating the tariffs, what does that mean for you and your position, and does it buy the administration more time, in your view?
The tariffs remain in place. The court told us, they didn't all but tell us, they told us, go do it another way. So you can assume that even if we lose, we will do it another way. And I can assure the American people that the Trump tariff agenda is alive, well, healthy, and will be implemented to protect you, to save your jobs and your factories, and to stop shipping foreign wealth, our wealth, into foreign hands.
So you are working on a plan B
Of course. No, there's no plan B. It's plan A, okay? Plan A encompasses all strategic options, and when we move forward, we had a full view of what the battlefield looks like. We are not naive about rogue justices in the judiciary and Democrats filing lawsuits. This has got to stop, by the way. This weaponization of the judiciary to stop President Trump from doing what he promised the American people, this has got to stop. It's the people of America have the lowest level of confidence in the American judiciary they've had in 100 years. And it's getting close to what they think about Congress, and that's a low bar to hit.
Peter, I want to ask you, what do the conversations look like right now with other countries as you're seeing the courts pushing back here in the United States?
Well, great question. In fact, that is the question in many ways. This morning, we were getting plenty of phone calls from countries saying, we saw the ruling, so what? We're going to continue to negotiate in good faith because we understand that there's a problem, and based on that court decision, we understand that that court decision is not going to stop you from doing what you need to do, so we're going to work with you. So I can assure you, and by the way, there's going to be within the next, I don't know, say few days, because that puts me too much on the spot, but you will see a cascade of new deals coming out in the near future, and these will all be good for the American people. Okay, yes, sir.
My colleagues with Spectrum News across the country have talked to a ton of small business owners over the last few months who
Sure.
say they're having trouble keeping up with this back and forth for their supply chain, explaining price increases to their customers.
Yeah.
What's your message to them right now? How are they supposed to keep businesses normal amidst hourly changes?
We're in a point where in this history of this country, if we do not shift structurally to a world where the world treats us fairly, we will never have this opportunity again. And a lot of this back and forth is the result of the Democrats working with the globalist rhino Wall Street people to try to stop the Trump agenda, whether it's at the border or whether it's on trade. But we're going to move forward, and we're going to get to a place where we're going to have more factories, more jobs. We've already had trillions of dollars of investment. I mean, I don't think any of you can deny that these Trump policies are working to attract trillions of dollars of investment, and that we are moving to onshoring our facilities, and that's what we got to keep doing. Yes, ma'am.
Navarro, just on the back and forth. So is your message to small businesses, to the markets that are watching this news, the back and forth of the on and off again tariffs, the rulings, is that these tariffs are going to go into effect regardless, and that the administration will find a way to get it done?
I think that's a fair assessment. And look, I think that one of the other themes that I would ask every one of you when you talk about your stories and write them is this: you cannot simply write about tariffs within the context of just tariffs alone. You have to look at the broader issue of how we're going about policy. I had an op-ed yesterday in The Hill, which I would urge everybody to read and report on, which basically talks about how the Congressional Budget Office, when they scored the bill, came out with an estimate of GDP growth of 1.7%, and they said that we were going to have a nearly $4 trillion addition to the deficit. And it's dead wrong. When you look at the CBO's history for the 2017 Tax Cut Act, they did the same thing. They understated growth by a full percentage point, understated revenues accordingly. When you add those revenues, we expect at least a percentage point of growth more than the CBO projects. That's over $2 trillion. And then when you add the simple tariff revenues from a 10% baseline tariff, that's another more than $2 trillion. And you see a $5 trillion swing into a $2 trillion surplus from that tax bill. So we're going to have that, and within that, for your small business, I kind of got around to that, but now I'm here with the small business, full expensing for new investments in factory and plant. Energy prices, you got to consider that we're down in the low 60s for a barrel of oil now. That's like thousands of dollars more in people's pockets to buy as consumers, and a tremendous benefit to businesses. The regulatory effect of the lower regulations are going to make small business bloom. I mean, no president in the last 50 years has been more intent on helping small businesses.